The classes of the halachos of the Holocaust. There may be one more after this one, but it probably won't be in the context of the mitzvahs of Tzulis Ba'aretz class. So we covered the first class. We covered is under what circumstances or when is a Jew allowed to deny his Jewishness, which we're going to be touching upon again today.
My parents.
Oh, so hold on 1 second. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Very good. I want to hear it because I have more sources on it here. Then the second class that we spoke about last time was the idea, the concept of the Judenrat and the involvement of Jews, and are Jews allowed to collude with the enemy in order to try to save lives, and we addressed that. And today what we're going to be doing, which is going to overlap a little bit with the first class, and I copied here a few of the letters about it, is in general, to what lengths does a Jew have to go to keep halacha in times of terror and crisis and under duress, obviously like the Holocaust was. And what does the halacha demand under these circumstances? What is a person allowed to do? What is a person not allowed to do? Is a person allowed to risk his life to do mitzvahs? We know so many stories from the Holocaust of people who risked their lives for small mitzvahs. Men who would risk their lives in the camps to have tefillin, women who would risk their lives to go to mikvah, all sorts of things. And is a person allowed to do that? Are we allowed to put ourselves in danger just to keep one mitzvah? So that's one of the things we're going to address. We'll address today. Okay, so again, a lot of this we saw. Not a lot of this. Some of this we saw in the first class, but in somewhat of a different context. But it's the same source in Shulchan Aruch. It's in Kuf Nun Zayin in Yoreh De'ah. And these are the halachos. So I've broken it up for you on the sheets as follows. All the text along the far right of the page, meaning like everything that's aligned along the right, that's all the text of the Shulchan Aruch in one place, in this one siman, but I've broken it up piece by piece to make it easier to read, and interjected with sources that deal with this as we go along the way. So let's get started about this. Okay, so we have here the general rule: Kol ha'averos shel Torah, all averos in the Torah, every sin that's outlined in the Torah, with the exception, right, of the three. I just took that out because again we dealt with that in the first class. With the exception of Gili Arayos, Shfichus Damim, and Avodah Zarah, illicit relationships, murder, and idol worship. With those exceptions, im omrim lo la'adam sheyavor aleim o yihareg, if a person is told, hopefully let's say by a non-Jew, not by another Jew, but if a person is told by somebody to violate one of these mitzvos or averos, or be killed, so here are the halachos. Okay, so I broke it up again here in pieces. Number one, imhu b'tzina, if it is in private, yavor v'al yihareg. If it's in private where the person is, and the non-Jewish person is forcing somebody to break Shabbos, forcing somebody to eat non-kosher, right? So, ya'avor v'al yihareg. A person should do the avera and not die. But let's say a person wants to be machmir on himself. He does not want to eat treif, right? Like the stories about this, of people in concentration camps that refuse to eat non-kosher food. In particular, his name just slipped my mind right now. From the Kloisenberger Rebbe. If you're familiar with that book, I highly recommend it. The Kloisenberger Rebbe, The War Years. Anybody heard this book or read it? We have it downstairs in the basement. An incredible, powerful book. I have a friend of mine whose father became frum because of this book. He read this book and he read just how inspiring and powerful the life of this person was, and to what extent he went in the Holocaust to try to keep the Torah. And this person said, how can I not keep the Torah? And he became religious because of this book. Very, very powerful book, the Kloisenberger Rebbe. He went on to survive the war, and he created the Lanyado Hospital in Netanya. It's a big frum hospital here in Israel that he dedicated to surviving the war. Anyway, so it's very, it's well known that he refused to eat non-kosher, and somehow he survived through camps, a year plus in the camps without ever eating treif. But the question is a person allowed to do that? So here the Shulchan Aruch is saying, a person is allowed to be machmir on himself and not do an avera and die, be killed, but only im ha'ovi kochavim mechavein la'avira aladas. Right? We covered this in the first year. Only if the intent of the non-Jew is to break the spirit of the Jew, to break the Torah, chas v'shalom, right? In other words, if he's doing it for his own benefit, Let's say there's a non-Jewish person, and you have a Jewish person who was, kidnapped or a slave, of a non-Jewish person, and he tells him, make me a cup of coffee on Shabbos. And, he's not doing it in order to make him be Machal Shabbos and to see him do, he just wants a cup of coffee. So then you're not even allowed to be Machmir. Okay, so let's see the sources there. We're going to look at the Shach. The Shach is one of the great Gedolei Achronim, one of the early Achronim of Shabsai Cohen was his name, and he wrote on the Shulchan Aruch in Yeridea. Primarily is where we have his Perush. We don't have his Perush on Orach Chaim, but he apparently wrote there as well. He refers to it in some places. Okay, so look what he says over here. Okay, this is that letter Aleph. You see where it says Rashai. If he wants to, he's allowed to. Bach Pasak Karambam. The Bach paskins like the Rambam. The Kol Misha Dino Lavor Vali Hareg Venera Velo Avar Hareza Neschayev Benafsho. Right, so there's a difference of opinion over here. The Bach and the Rambam, they hold that no, a person is not allowed to be machmir. You're not allowed to be machmir. And if a person is machmir, they're considered to be like it's suicide. U'mischayev benafsho. That's an expression that means he's accountable for his own death. V'chein dasa beis Yosef. V'chein nira dasa Ramban. V'sefer Torah Sa'adam u'muvio Aram. Yeah, Perak Yom Kippur. Okay, so he brings a whole list of Rishonim here. Great, big, the biggest Rishonim. They have the Rambam and the Ramban.
Is this only in private?
I'm sorry?
This is only in private?
Right, this is in private, and but even when he's doing it in order to break the spirit, right? If he's doing it for his own pleasure, then for sure can't. But even when he's doing it to break the Jewish spirit, if it's in private, and he's not allowed, and it's a regular affair, eating treif, he's not allowed to be machmir according to all of these Rishonim. Okay. However, on the other hand, he quotes Vagos Ashri, etc. Yeah, Kasvim wrote to the Achron Atmi Lahari Hichat the Kaimon Yaver Tzarich Inim Shari. Right? So he says there's a machlokas about this in the Rishonim. There's a big question in the Rishonim if a person is even allowed to be machmir or not. So now he addresses why is it then that the Shulchan Aruch Paskin he's allowed to? Right? Why is he? If the Rambam and the Ramban, great Rishonim, are saying he's not allowed to. So he says, "V'hayanira de b'pluksa de rabusas lina lekula v'yisas sakanas nefashos k'derminan ba'al masafek nefashos lahakel." Right? We have a rule, a general klal. You've heard this before. Safek nefashos lahakel. What does that mean? Does anybody know? Anybody? I mean, anytime you have a safek where in halacha, but there's a question of a life on the line, we're lenient, right? In other words, let's say the doctors say to a person, I'm not sure if it's okay for him to fast on Yom Kippur. So he eats on Yom Kippur, right? Safek nefashos lahakel. Anytime there's a question and there's a life on the line, we answer the question in the way of life. In other words, we're going to be lenient. We're going to, this comes up in real life. A person gets hurt on Shabbos, a kid falls and hurts their head. Hits their head hard. They don't know, maybe they're okay, maybe they're not okay, right? If there's any question that they need an x-ray or something, so safek nefashos lahakel, if there's any real question over there. So he says, so over here you would think that the halacha would be, we should paskin like the Rambam, right? We should paskin like those Rishonim that say you can't give up your life, right? So why is he saying here that you're allowed to give up your life? Yeah? So he says a very interesting thing. However, one can say, we can answer, he says a very interesting thing. We see already that there is a concept of Kiddush Hashem, of dying al Kiddush Hashem. There is a concept of a time where a Jew has to give up his life in order to keep the Torah, right? Like we're going to see soon. Or we already spoke about one of the three main Averos, or if it's in public, etc. There is such a thing as the Torah, putting the Torah in front of the life of a Jew. And therefore he says you can't learn Safek Nefashos Lahakel over here, right? In every other area of halacha, where the halacha bends to the life of the person, so there we're going to always apply the rule of Safek Nefashos Lahakel. But in this one area of halacha, where the life of a person does not always take precedence over keeping the Torah, right? So who says that we apply Safek Nefashos Lahakel over here? And that's how he says that we paskin, and therefore he says that we are allowed to, one is allowed to give up their life if they want to. In the same piece, as he continues, is a person allowed to commit suicide to prevent going into a situation where they feel they're going to have to do averas, right? Let's say a person knows that they're going to torture him, or if he doesn't accept the vodah zarah on himself. So in that situation, so he writes over here, the Kosov Agos Smak, that the Sefer Mitzvos Katanos is one of the Rishonim who wrote on the accounting of the mitzvos. The Osam Kedoshim Sheshachtu Atzman Shelo Samchu Daitum Lamu V'Nisayom, those holy people who killed themselves, who shechted themselves because they didn't trust that they would be able to stand up to the test of not doing Avodah Zarah. Right? In other words, people who, let's say the Crusaders were coming, and they knew that everybody has to either accept Christianity on themselves and be baptized, or they're going to be tortured. They're going to be, the Inquisition is coming, and these terrible things are going on. The person says, "I don't know that I'm going to be able to stand up to that test, right? I don't know that I'm not going to, accept, God forbid, an avodah zarah on myself." So he kills himself, right? Kedoshim gemurim. He says they are kedoshim gemurim. They're completely holy, meaning that the Smak agrees with this. V'raya Mishol, he says, like you see that Shaul did this. Shaul HaMelech was afraid that he would be captured by the Plishtim, and he asked somebody, or he first tried to kill himself, and when that didn't work, he asked somebody to kill him. He brings a number of Rishonim, who bring this, and he says, but also he says this is a big shayla in halacha. It's a shayla in halacha if a person is allowed to kill themselves in order to prevent going and doing avodah zarah. Now, this is something that came up also in the Holocaust for sure, and very famous, most famously in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. The last remnants of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, which was a group of Jewish people that stood up against the German army, and there was an uprising that lasted for over a month, and it was like the most successful up until that time, most successful uprising against the Germans that ever were, and it's a very big part of the founding philosophy of Israel and such, which we'll talk about later in the year. But those people, the last remnants of the uprising, who were trapped in their bunker, they had a thing at the address. Anybody know the address? Mila 18. It's a very famous address. It's a book by Leon Uris, and I read the book, a very powerful book. They said, so Mila 18, those of you coming on Poland will be there. It's one of the places we visit. The building where this was, and they all committed suicide. At the end, they all killed themselves, and they left a note saying that they were going to do this. So that's questionable if a person is allowed to do that, because there it wasn't really. It wasn't, even if it's going to mean a person doing avodah zarah, it's still a question in the poskim, and not everybody says a person can do it. So here it was just a matter of dying with dignity. So it's questionable. We'll see. Rav Oshri has some chuvas about this. Unfortunately, Rav Oshri, Ephraim Oshri, I didn't copy for them here, but he had a question about this, about a person. Again, the only time where we're talking about here in the shach is when avodah zarah is in the balance. Not suffering or other things. That's a different question. And that was one of the questions Roshi had dealt with. Okay, very upsetting question. Okay, let's see further now. So this is where the Shulchan Aruch the Shach here is going to address, and the Shulchan Aruch told us that it's only if the non-Jewish person's intent is to break the spirit of the Jews, but not if he's doing it for his own pleasure. Now we're in one gimel now, if everybody is following on the sheets. But if the guy's intent is only to, just for his own benefit, like I gave you that example, he asked the person to be Machal Shabbos, not because he's trying to, make him see him do a halacha wrong, but just because he wants that cup of coffee. So asur lahachmir. In that situation, everybody agrees it's forbidden for a person to be machmir. V'nikra chovel ba'atzmo v'tzarech la'avor v'ali hareg. That's mamish considered to be suicide if a person does that. Let's say a person is not happy with life and they see this as an opportunity to leave. So they'll take advantage of this. They won't do that. Now, so the person cannot do that. Under these circumstances. Because of a bath, I'm going to the underline. Right? Even in public. Okay, now this is important. Even in public, when it's a situation where their kavanah is not to break the Jews, it's just a matter of let's say an army that comes in and takes over a place. I'll give you an example where this happened. This happened a lot of times, but before the Holocaust in Russia and Poland. Many times the Jews were enlisted to work, enlisted to serve in the army, and all of these types of things, where it wasn't a matter of doing it in order to break the Jews, and just everybody had to do it under communist Russia, or everybody had to do these things. So there it wasn't a matter of trying to break the Jewish spirit. The truth is, I tried to switch. It couldn't be in communist Russia. Maybe it was. There was something mixed in of trying to break the Jews. I was talking about, earlier than that, by World War I, and during those times, they would. There's a famous tshuva in the Chassam Sofer about this. So we're going back hundreds of years. The Chassam Sofer is in the 1800s already, in the city that he lived in Pressburg, which is now in Hungary. So he writes like this, that there was a bridge that was bombed, and they forced the Jews to work, through the week until the bridge was completed, including building on Shabbos. So the question was over here, that was a public thing, right? You have Jews going out and being Machal Shabbos on public under duress, right, from the Goyim. But under those circumstances, you do it, right? Because there they're not trying to, there it is. Okay. However, he says there are those who disagree on this point, right? There are those who say the Prisha, it's one of also the Gedolei Achronim, and he writes that if it's public, then a person is allowed to do this. So now, what's the psak? So what does the shach say? Halachot. So what do we do with this? So look what he writes. He says, if the time demands it, let's say there's if a person would give up his life in order to keep this mitzvah, it'll give tremendous chizuk to people, it'll inspire people to persevere. The time needs it, so then a person is allowed to do it even under these circumstances. And look at the end of that line. Right? Let's say he sees the generation is very lax in this mitzvah, and if he makes a point that he's willing to die for this, so he says, let's say texting on Shabbos, right? Let's say texting on Shabbos. So many people text on Shabbos, and people are going to hear that there's a rabbi who gave up his life rather than texting on Shabbos, and that's going to make an impact on people. Yeah, so that would be mutter to do. Well, maybe that's the Rabbanan. I'm not sure. But as he says, "Afilu al mitzvah kala," even on what you would consider a light mitzvah, kadesh yiru ha'am liyira Hashem v'lahava b'chol levav b'chol libam. Right, to teach the people a lesson that how connected we're supposed to be to Hashem. Okay, so this is level number one, rule number one. If not, again with the exclusion of the big three, any other avera. So we're seeing the rules are as follows: if it's in private and the person's intent is for his own pleasure, it's forbidden to violate. And if a person violates it's forbidden to give up one's life. And if a person gives up their life, they're considered to be suicide. Now, if it's in public and it's for the benefit of the non-Jew, not in order to break the spirit, so then we saw it's a machlokas. And then in a situation where people feel the generation needs it, a person is allowed to. But it seems otherwise they should not. Okay, now, if it's a situation where they are trying to break the spirit, so let's see. Okay. Let's see. Okay, number two. Now this we're going to digress about this for a second, because number two is the Shulchan Aruch. This is Haggadah. Anytime you have in the Shulchan Aruch the words Haggadah, that's the Ramah who is interjecting over here. And the Ramah says here. I want to hold off on this. Let's get back to this, because the Ramah is going to bring in the next point, which we've also crossed paths with over here in Chavetz Chaim class and other classes, about having to give up all of your money in order to not do the Averis. So let's get back to this. Let's get back to number two. Number three. V'ilu b'farhesya, let's say it's public. Dahainu b'fnei asara miyisrael, in front of 10 people. Chayiv lehareg v'al yavor ima ovi kochavim mechavi laviro al das. So again, we saw, if it's in public and it's for his own benefit, right? So then we saw it's a machlokas. But now we're seeing, if it's in public, and the kavanah of the non-Jew is to break the spirit of the Jews, right? To break them from the Torah, so then chayiv laharik bal yavar. A person is mechuyev to die under those circumstances. Yeah, afilu al arkasa de mesana. Even on this famous case, anybody heard this before? Arkasa de mesana. It's an expression. It means even on a shoelace. Even on a shoelace. What does that mean? Let's see. Skip down for a second into the shach. What's arkasa de mesana? We're in 3 in the shach over there. Perush Rashi shederach ovi kochavim likshar kach. Let's say the non-Jews have a particular way that they tie their shoes. Yeah, and the Jews tie their shoes in a different way, right? Okay, let's talk about black hats or something like that, right? Jews wear black hats and non-Jews wear baseball hats. Let's say that would be like the rule, the klal, right? You never see a Jew wearing a baseball hat and you'll never see a non-Jew wearing a black hat, right? That's what we're talking about over here. Yeah? And there's something Jewish about this. In other words, if it's just a style, yeah, maybe hats would not count then. Because I don't know about it. It's not true. There are a lot of Sfarim that write about it. That it is the right, whatever it is. But there has to be something Jewish to this, right? There's something.
It's Jewish just to shoelace.
Well, that's what he's saying. Let's say the way that let's say they tied their shoes in a dalit or something like that, right? Like people tied tefillin in a letter. Let's say the Jews in that city had a minhag to tie their shoes in the letter, like to make it like a shin, right? To always remember the Shem Hashem. Let's just say, right? So it's not just a style, like Beis Yaakov girls all wearing black, right? But there's something Jewish to it. Maybe there's something Jewish to that also. Maybe to try to not to be tzedua. Maybe that is. Maybe if that would be the case, that everybody was wearing, no one would wear colors because they felt that it was a breach of tznius. So then wearing colors would be that's for sure something Jewish to that. It's not just stam, right? Okay. Right? He's making it very clear now. You're not breaking the Torah over here. There's no halacha at stake. There's just the minhag of the way the Jews do things. Yeah. Yekadesh Hashem b'fnei chaveiro. A person has to give up their life rather than do this, right? That's again something that all the non-Jews are doing, and no Jewish person would do this. Maybe even I don't know. Maybe like let's say let's say in Nazi Germany they ask a person to do the Sieg Heil, like the salute, the Nazi salute or something like that, and tell a person either you do this or I'll get. I don't know if that would count for this. I don't know, but that's the type of thing that we're talking about, where there's no aveira involved, there's no halacha breaking, there's nothing. It's just a matter of doing something. The concept, right, of doing something like them because they're demanding that you do it like us. So a person even on that has to give up their life again if it's in public. Okay, so this is a big deal as far as the Holocaust is concerned because most poskim held that the Germans were in this category. Most poskim held that they were doing this in order to break the spirit of the Jews, and they would force Jews to do things. They would force them to, rip up Sifrei Torah, all sorts of terrible things. And while of course they were terrible and brutal and cruel, also to homosexuals and to blacks and to Seventh-day Adventists and gypsies and all sorts of other people, but there was certainly something special about the Jewish people in the Torah, and it's for sure features in Hitler's writings. He wrote about the Jewish people are like the conscience of the world, and therefore they have to be stamped out. In order for us to really maximize our potential, there's this Jewish conscience that holds us back. There's no question that the mentality of the Nazis were. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily in every individual case, every Nazi that asked every Jew to do any halacha was a situation of that. I don't know how that would work, but you see that concept for sure. So this would be many cases that you have in the Holocaust of people giving up their lives rather than doing relatively small averos fall into this category. Okay, let's continue number 4. V'mhushas ha'gezera. And if it's more than that, this is really more the Holocaust. I really preempted this. The first one again was really talking about an individual situation where they're forcing the person to do it. Let's say you have some just not nice people, and they want to see a Jew break halacha to break halacha. That's what we're talking about. Now, b'mhushas gezerah, if we're talking about that's like the Holocaust, where there's a mass gezerah on the Jews, a gezerah meaning a decree to stamp us out, chas v'shalom, al Yisrael levadam. But again, here he's saying specifically on the Jews, not an army conquering another nation where there happen to be Jews there. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a situation where there is a focus on the Jews. Afilu arkas at the Masana Yahari Bal Yavor. Again, he writes over here this idea of the arkas at the Masana in the Shas Gezerah. Okay. So there's a very interesting thing here. I don't want to read this inside because it's going to take too long. But the source, the Pischei Tshuva over here, relates to is a person allowed to run away, or are they mechuyev to give up their lives? Right? In other words, maybe when a person is in that situation where we want to see this quickly. Right? In other words, maybe running away is also like a chilul Hashem. Right? In other words, maybe the Kiddush Hashem is showing them that I'm willing to die and not do this Aveira. And maybe running away is maybe not as bad as the Aveira. That's what he's saying. Miksasim yecholim levroach, im uchiyavim levroach kedei lahatzal nafsham, lo yukamad me'atmo b'das, o neima da'al yivreshu min hatzibur shmuchiyavim m'mtzoras nafsham al Kiddush Hashem. Yeah. Anyway, he responds that they should go, that they're allowed to save themselves. Yeah, it says they're supposed to. I know. Shalom levrach, lum zanafshim k'al Hashem, rabbim sheben yom la'cherim lo mipi ma'avedas patas. Yeah, das ist after the Yosot of Gabi Chanin and Dafil Yichol Ma'al Hashem Ein L'Brach Zein L'Vaday. Let's pick it up from here. The Vaday Hecha the Efsher L'Kayim Shneihem Shelo lavor al mitzvah, v'lakayim v'chai b'hem, right? The Torah tells us v'chai b'hem, we're supposed to live by the mitzvahs. That means that we're not supposed to die. That's why, it's because of this concept of v'chai b'hem, this is why we're mechal Shabbos. So he says, if you can be Mekayim both, meaning you can not do the Aveira and also be Mekayim v'chai b'hem, so certainly you have to do that. Okay. Anyway, let's go on.
Can I say what my parents said?
Well, we're not. Can we wait till we get up to that? It's in the next thing. We're not up to it yet. Can we wait till we get to it? I don't think we're going to get to it next time. I'm not sure if we get to it today, but we'll wait till it. Okay. Now, look down to number 5. Okay. Now, but all of this until now has been about mitzvos los aseh, right? About doing averos. But what about mitzvos aseh? What about like the person who's moser nefesh to do tefillin, right? What about the people who are moser nefesh to do all sorts of mitzvos? So what about that, right? Until now we've been talking about doing averos. So it says the Ramah, "V'davke im rotzim la'aviro b'mitzvos lo saseh." All of this is only talking about a lo saseh. Aval im gazru gezerah shelo l'kayim mitzvos aseh. But if they made a gezerah not to do mitzvos, ein tzarech l'kayim bo v'she'harei. In that case, you don't have to do the mitzvah and be killed. In other words, you're allowed to not do it. Again, this is the Ramah saying now. If the time demands it, if a person wants to be Mekadesh Shem Shemayim and show people the importance of this, or if people see that he was Moser Nefesh for this mitzvah, it's going to give them chizuk and inspiration, and you know what I mean. So then he's allowed to do it even for a mitzvah. Okay, even for a mitzvah's aseh. Okay. Okay. Finally, number 6. Now here's a whole caveat in this whole discussion. This whole discussion that we've been having until now about breaking averos and doing mitzvos and giving up your life and all these things. So it says now the Shulchan Aruch that this is only a situation where it's going to require that the person actively does something. Kigon she'omrim leish legalos erva or she'arik, like they tell a man, be with this woman or kill this person, right? Where the person has to actively go and do something. Aval im onsim leisha lavo alea, but a woman who never is raped, right, where she has no choice in the matter and she's passive, she's not doing anything. Let's say they say to a person, right, it's very disturbing. Let's say they say to a person, either let me pick you up and smash you into somebody else and kill him like that, or I'm going to kill you. Yeah, so a person does not have to give up his life because they're being passive. They're allowed to just stand there and be there, and the person will do what they will do. In other words, this whole mitzvah of having to give up one's life to not violate the halacha is only in action, in doing an action. But if a person will violate the halacha by inaction, right, by not doing anything, so even though under normal circumstances that's usher to do, right, but a person is allowed to save their life this way.
But are you also allowed to give up your life that way?
Like by the Chorban or the Romans.
That whole boat of girls, the boat of girls, right? So I was thinking that also, I think so. I think it would probably fall under the same category as the idea of the Gzeira. He says it himself. He says, even when it comes to the mitzvos, when holding back from doing a mitzvah, which is also b'sheif al taseh, so in a situation where it demands it, so you're allowed to. You're allowed to.
Like, even if it's not, even if they're not doing it to you because you're a Jew, but just because they haven't.
Is a person allowed to? I don't know. Okay, I have to look at that. I'm not sure. Okay. Okay, then finally number 7, let's just round it out with number 7, and then we're going to move back to the ones that we skipped. Number 7, so this is what we saw again in the first class, when he's just clarifying now, okay? So far we only have 2 categories of averos. We've got the big 3, and we've got everything else, right? But now he's saying something which I've mentioned in other classes also here in school. Yeah, that we're saying, the whole iser, even though it's only a lav, quote unquote, only a losase, and it's not a chiyuv misa, like what? Like negia, right? Like maybe yichud, according to some poskim. Like some poskim say embarrassing a person in public, because that's like killing them, right? These types of averas that are averas that relate to these big 3, but they don't carry a chiyuv misa, rak lav ba'alma, but just a lav, just a lo saseh, tzarich lehari b'al yavo. This is as we mentioned this to you. A person has to give up their life and not do the avera. Yes, negiya is yahari b'al yavor. That's the halacha. The person would say, either hug me or I'll kill you. So a person would be mechuyev to give up their life because the negiya der chiba, if it would be der chiba, if it would be in the affectionate manner, that is it's a lo saseh. It's not a chiv misa. The person doesn't have nachay misa, but it's a lo saseh that is related to gilui arayos, and the person is mechuyev to give up their life for that. There's a story about a guy who was on a train, and I don't know if it's a true story. I remember it's like people used to tell these stories in yeshiva. The guy's on a train with a date, and as they're going, and like people are getting off the train, then he realizes it's just him and his girl on the train, and he jumped out of the car to try to say whatever, hurt himself, all these things. But it could be your place. I don't know. Okay, now, so all of this until now has been talking about life and death. Scenarios, right, where the choice that a person is faced with is either do the avera or be killed. Let's go back now into number 2. Right, number 2 is the Ramah, where he addresses this halacha. And again, this came up in the Chaim class a couple of weeks ago, but now you're seeing it inside in the actual text of the Shulchan Aruch. Says the Ramah, "V'myuchal lahatzil atzmo v'chol asher lo." If a person can save himself from doing this avera with all of his money, with everything he has, tzarich litin hakol v'lo yavor lo saseh. He has to give everything away and not be over a lo saseh. That's halacha, right? If a person can only get kosher food and it's going to take all of his money, or if let's say a person is asked to do one of these averas. And he could buy off the Nazi, he could buy off the Gestapo by giving him all their money and all their everything. So he's mechuyev to do that rather than eating treif, right? Or certainly any of these other affairs that we've been talking about. Yeah, and it says the Vilna Gaon, and that's in the indent over here, and he brings a case on Shabbos, right? Let's talk about Shabbos. Shabbos. That's like all the other mitzvahs in the Torah, all the other lo sasehs that a person is breaks Shabbos in order to save a life. But let's say you have, a person's whole storage bin of all their money, millions of dollars, all the money that they have, their whole life savings and everything, it catches fire on Shabbos. Yeah, are they allowed to put out that fire? Right? So, obviously, putting out a fire on Shabbos, unless you're intending to keep the coal, is a d'rabbanan. It's not even insert d'oraisa, right? And telling a non-Jew to do malacha on Shabbos is itself also a midrabanan, right? If I tell a non-Jew to cook for me on Shabbos, I tell a non-Jew to drive for me on Shabbos, it's only an isser midrabanan, right? So we have extinguishing is drabanan and telling a non-Jew is drabanan. Look what the Gaon says, yeah? Dafilu shvus to shvus asar behefsid mamon. And even telling a non-Jew, right? You're not allowed to tell a non-Jew to extinguish a fire explicitly. You have to do it in a hinting way. You have to do other things, right? But even a d'rabbanan on a d'rabbanan, you're not allowed to do to save all of your money, right? A person is not allowed to do averos. That's the bottom line. Not allowed to do averos. And if you can stop yourself from doing an avera by spending all of your money, that's what you have to do. Now flip the page. I'm not sure why I numbered this wrong. 6 aleph. Beis and Gimel really belong as 2 aleph, Beis and Gimel. So that's my mistake. Now we're seeing, we have another 2 minutes, so we'll start with this quickly. So this is, okay, we're going to skip down to where it says the Haggah. The first part is interesting, but there's no time for it. So skip down to here where it says Haggah. This is the Ramah. Commenting now, this is the halachos of lulav and esrog, and the halacha of how much does a person have to spend to do a mitzvah. Umi she'ein lo esrog. Anybody who doesn't have an esrog, or shar mitzvah overes, or any other mitzvah that's passing, right, that he only has an opportunity to do now and then he's going to miss it. Matzah on Pesach. If a person doesn't have matzah on Pesach, that's it. He missed that mitzvah for that year. It's gone. Ein tzarich levazvez aleh hom rav. A person does not have to spend a huge amount of money on it. Moshe Amram, levazvez ali vazvez yoser mechomesh. Right, a few mitzvah overes. A person only has to spend 20%, 1/5 of their money in order to be mekayim a mitzvah. Okay, so I think we've discussed this before. If it's going to cost money to do a mitzvah, a person has to make a cheshbon and spend 20% of their money. It says, the Shulchan Aruch continues here, v'dafka mitzvah saseh. But this is only when it comes to positive commandments. Aval lo saseh, when it comes to a negative commandment, yitain kol mamono kodem shiavor. A person has to give all of their money before they're going to do the avera. Okay, so let's just see very quickly the Mishnah. We'll finish with this. Yeah, we'll give you 1 minute overtime, please, because we started late. 6 Gimel. Let's take a look at this. Yitin Kol Mamod Kodem Shabbos. This is now the Mishnah Berurah talking. The Chavetz Chaim here giving us chizuk in Shmir Shabbos. Look what he says here. Even if this means a person is mamish going to be a pauper, they're going to have to walk around now door to door collecting money, knocking on the doors. There's no way that we'll give you a second just to finish this and I'll take a question. There's no way that we can permit a person to do an Avera in Torah. Even if that's it, they're going to be destitute. They won't have anything. Even though he says this is for every lo saseh in the Torah. How much more so for Shabbos, which is a chiyuv kares. It's a very, very serious aveira. Yeah, so let's say a person, they're telling us, mamish like in New York in the early 1900s, the person says to him, you better work on Shabbos, and if not, you're not going to have a job. Even though this is his parnasa, him and his family, that's it, this is all their money. Yeah, he's not allowed to cut off his neshama because of them. Meaning he can't give himself kares, he can't be machal Shabbos in order to provide for his family. And that's an assignment that Hashem is putting a person in. Okay, so we're seeing, we saw the rules about what it takes for a person to give up their life. We're going to continue with this next time. So I'd like to see Rabbi Ephraim Oshie has a few questions here that have to do with this, shaving with a razor, cooking on Shabbos, and then 2 questions about pretending to be non-Jews, which we'll get to Mr. next time when we finish up. Yeah.
For the spending 20% of your money to do a positive commandment, is that like the maximum?
You're not allowed to spend more. You're not allowed to spend more. Not allowed to spend more.
Okay.
What if it's a few mitzvahs you have to do? You only do.
So you do. That's a question of which one takes kedilus, which one gets priority. But the first one takes the first 20%, and then I don't know if you keep on cutting in another 20, another 20. I don't know. That's a good question. Could be you do, but eventually it's going to be so small you won't be able to do it.
Well, then you're also not going to have any money. And then
Well, you'll always have 80%.
Did
You
you-
know. Okay, all right. We'll do the next. Stop.
It's like how you can only give up to like